we add a lot of value in this conversation. We'll also be discussing the latest market trends and how they impact your financial decisions. And to help us navigate these topics, I'll be joined by my friend and financial expert, Leon Mensah. He is the CEO of Cloudacy that will help you protect your digital assets and also plan for your families. And he'll be sharing key insights and practical strategies to help you take control of your financial future. So without further ado, everyone welcome. Let me make sure he's on here as well. We're going to have Leon jump on very shortly. And I asked a question. Let me see. He was just on here. What are your top priorities financially this year? I'll put that in the chat room as well. All right. Awesome. Looking very sharp, my sir. Again, you're a CEO, so this is the caliber that we're speaking. Leon, how are you?
I'm doing wonderful. Can you hear me okay?
I can hear you perfectly. It looks awesome, and I know that you just came from a meeting previously. Was it with business partners, clients?
Yes, so I've been working. I normally work at least 10-hour days, but I've been working since 6 a.m. Yeah, back-to-back meeting, just with, customers, clients, of the organization, trying to deliver just financial matters as a whole. Yep.
Of course. And we definitely appreciate your time. We're already having people jump on who are hungry for this topic. And the topic that we are discussing today is very important, especially as we begin this year. We're already into the second month to discuss financial planning for this year. There's a lot of things that people aren't getting. We haven't learned from schools, and we're having to decipher and delineate information from different places on the internet. So with an expert like yourself, I know we'll be able to narrow down things that people need to know. And so I would like you just to tell the audience briefly about yourself, of course, Cloudacy. I know you have a wealth of experience, just your career and how you end up at this point where we can talk about financial planning.
Yeah, thank you, Casey. It's definitely an honor. I'm very, very much inspired by what you're doing from a financial planning perspective. I think it has huge impact on people's lives. So I commend you for the level of education and diligence and effort you put into your craft. And I'm sure that's going to yield, good rewards, moving forward. So I'm very excited to be back. I was on the show a few months ago, and I had some really good positive responses. I was like, hey, KJ, let's do it around 2, so we can try to keep this educational series going. So by way of background, my name is Leon Mensah. I've been in the financial service industry for about 20 years. I have a master's in finance at Johns Hopkins. I have a bachelor's in business from University of Maryland. I also, have different financial certifications and all that. But basically, I've worked for financial institutions the last 20 years, investment banks, large institutions, some private, some government agencies, basically. And, the goal being is to try, I just have a passion for finance. I have a passion for helping people. I've worked a different spectrum of the financial analysis and financial planning arena. But definitely this space of which, giving advice to individuals and family is one of my passion, so I'm very excited about it. I didn't grow up with money, I left a war-torn country, Liberia, and moved here. We had a civil war for about 15 years. We moved here, I barely could even afford a winter jacket. I remember going to high school and, because my mother couldn't afford a winter jacket, I caught pneumonia. I had to get hospitalized for about 4 days. So I prized myself to really learn about finance, how money works, how the world works, because it really takes education, and it takes you from your generation that God can guide you, transform that generation by the knowledge and the work. You have to put in a lot of work to make it happen. But by applying that knowledge and putting it into action, you can really transform you and your generation. And so we're here because, we're inspired and we help leading the cause. And hopefully you all can listen and act on it. And I think together it's going to be a win-win situation.
Perfect, perfect. Thank you so much for that, Leon. And we're going to go in and jump right into it because I want to make sure people are, as they're jumping in, able to get as much as possible. So we'll talk with I want to talk about the importance of setting clear financial goals, and also what are some goals that people can be setting. I know we might have a range of audiences, but what is the importance of setting those financial goals, especially as we are jumping into 2025?
Absolutely. As we start into 2025, first of all, we had a very pivotal time in human history, right? So we had traditionally, we've been kind of accustomed to doing things a certain way, with some automation, but not the automation that artificial intelligence provides, right? So now we've in a whole new world. So every sort of sector and things that we once knew, everything's getting augmented in some way by artificial intelligence. Now, in some way, that's good. It means that every one of us could be highly productive, right? Because it's helping make us do more with less. But also in other areas, it caused some cause for some challenges because many people who don't evolve their skill sets, right? Some of those, they could lose some of those jobs to artificial intelligence.
Right.
Now the question becomes, what happens to the income? What happens to the assets? So that is the reason why financial planning is very important, because it helps you, make sure that you and your family are okay in various circumstances. What are times are good, what are times are hard. By putting the right plans in place, you can make sure that you stabilize the necessary resources to sustain you and your family into this new world order. So that's one reason we thought it would be a good idea to start educating individuals and families on this financial planning process.
Of course.
Now, specifically, some of the things that that individuals and families need to start doing is there's really a 7 sort of step process, right? So the first step is getting hold of your finances, right? In terms of tracking all your income, tracking all your expenses. Now, it sounds simple, but a lot of us, to be honest, are really too lazy to try to say, oh man, I got to track, 20, 30 expenses every month, on a spreadsheet. But now we have automated tools that you can use basically to sync up with your bank account and track, essentially where your money is going. Sometimes just by identifying, we call this the FinOps, financial operations model for enterprise, for companies. By even just looking at, it's called a show back method, by showing back to yourself how you're spending your money, like, whoa, I spend this much eating out, I spend this much on clothes, or I spend this much doing all kinds of frivolous activities. So the first thing is to apply this show back method of how your money is essentially being expended, right? And identifying waste, abuse, right? Essentially expenses that you don't really need, right? So you really want to focus on that. Next thing we want to do in this assessing financial picture model is basically allocating some money after our core expenses, right? Overhead maintenance expense, towards some savings, right? Savings and investments, making sure that's in order, making sure that's in place. Now, some people, I've heard some people on the internet say, well, the 401k is a bad investment. You should invest in real estate. That people can make arguments, I think, for a lot of pros and cons reasons, and it's all fine. But what I suggest people consider is, for the average income earner, most of the time they contribute, say, for instance, to the 401k. The 401k matches 100% on average, up to say 3 to 5%. So if you put in, say, $5,000 a year, let's say someone makes $5,000 and contribute $5,000 a year, the company gives you essentially $5,000, right? So that's essentially 10 grand. So for most people, think about it logically, where are you going to go on this plan to get 100% of money in 1 year? So in effect, most people's employer, right, matches your 401k, you get 100% in effect return on your money in a year, right? So for the average income earner, 401k, I'm not saying that's the only way, but it can be a good way to save and invest, right? But of course, we have to explore other ways. But essentially having some money going to savings, both long-term, which mentioned 401k, also short-term, like emergency savings. Historically, we used to say 6 months, but But right now, we recommend at least a year because the economy is so volatile, the job situation is so
Exactly.
volatile. People are getting laid off.
Can also jump in there as well, because it sounds like what you're saying is the first step is going to be awareness of our current financial
Absolutely.
position. We have to know where we are, what our strengths or what our weaknesses. You can even take some I guess, ideas from the SWOT analysis, do your strengths, weakness, opportunities, threats, if you will. But it looks like also if we have to make sure we're saving, if we don't have any sort of savings,
Absolutely.
I think it's recommended for 10,000, but with the way things are with the economy, we have to increase that. And then also add to that as well, if clients are trying to get to the point where they're investing, I had a client as well who's trying to invest. If you're in debt, you cannot be in debt. Can we talk about this too, especially as we are making sure that we are getting a synopsis of our entire financial situation? What are the top priorities or things that we have to get rid of before we're able to really kind of run and have sort of momentum in the financial planning process?
Well, to be honest, I look at it a little bit differently.
Mm-hmm.
So when I think of getting out of debt, I think the fastest way to get out of debt that's more sustainable is to increase the income pool of assets.
Okay.
Because the thing about it is, if you're not making enough money, even if you cut back, there's only about so much you can really save, right? Because you're so limited. You have
I love that.
you have essentially like a cap, right? But I mean, you always have a cap, but essentially, the more you can expand your income pool, the better off you be. You can allocate more towards savings, investments, and other things. And certainly paying on debt, right? That's going to be a critical point. So I like to say work towards six income sources.
Wow.
Okay? Because the thing about it, the average person maybe might have one, just a job. But think about what ways you generate six. Now, a job is one way, multiple jobs are other ways. Getting dividend investment vehicles like stocks or REITs, real estate investment trusts, as long as it generates income, right? That's going to be good. It's going to help increase your cash flow. Getting side contracts, side hustles, setting up an LLC to start your business. But start with the mindset of from abundance. I want to have more.
This is great. Yes,
right.
Come on.
And then once you've reached that six income sources, well, not necessarily until you reach it, but you can simultaneously start to identify ways to pay down debt. Obviously, the best debt you sort of pay off is a credit card. They typically don't have higher interest rate, 20, 30%, right? So essentially looking as you're getting 30% return on your money, right? Because you pay down that 30% interest rate credit card, that's 30% less interest you have to pay out to the credit card company. So that money can then be retained for you and your family to be deployed towards more productive uses. So the first is increase your pool of assets. That would be the biggest and fastest way to get out of debt and sustain the cash flow to do things later on. Definitely identify high interest to lowest interest debt, things like credit cards, etc. Will probably be the biggest area we'll start. I mean, things like mortgages, I wouldn't rush so much to pay those off because for a lot of reasons, we can get into later. But definitely credit card and high interest rate.
Let's talk about this too. And I love the way this conversation is flowing. As you can tell, he's already adding a lot of value. And I love how you approach this. So we can, there's two trains of thoughts. And I've seen it, when it comes to like Dave Ramsey or some of these people. Let's stop, going to Starbucks or whatever it is. Or let's make sure we're, which is kind of like nitpicking at our goals. But if we're thinking with an abundance mindset, especially as far as the top income earners are earning, we're really focusing on income maximization, which we're talking about. You said adding 6 to 8 income sources, right? So we talk about the pragmatic ways that people are able to do that. I know maybe business. I actually am working with a client. We're trying to maximize overtime hours, things like that. Just different ways we can get the income source to increase. But let's talk about income maximization and different strategies for that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so for income maximization strategies, I think, first of all, one of the quickest way you get that is through multiple jobs, whether you even have a main job or maybe side jobs or side contracts. That's one way to handle that. But I would say the next best way is likely through set up your own business. Now, whatever it is you're interested in, but think about how can I enterprise this interest so I can generate income stream from it. So it doesn't really matter what it is. Whether you're selling shoes, or selling hats, or selling software, but sell what can make money. It doesn't really matter what you sell. Just try to find something to sell to generate a return, right, and additional income streams. I mean, some people can essentially do a business that's aligned with their hobbies, right? They may like, for instance, construction. So they may be on the weekend start to be a part-time construction project manager or something like that. Generate income stream. Or finance. They may like financial services. Maybe they want to become a financial professional or agent or a real estate agent. But essentially start thinking about, okay, what are the areas that I'm reasonably interested in that I'd like to pursue that I could generate additional income streams other than my primary source of income is where I would start.
I love that. And even adding to that as well, it seems like there's going to be more short-term ways we can increase our income and also long-term ways, right? So if we're thinking of maybe side hustles, those are quick ways to bolster that income. But if we're talking about our business, we have to be completely honest. It takes time to gain that notoriety and that ubiquity in order that people are coming to you and giving you that income. So can we talk about that from a long-term perspective? Are we, people just leaving their jobs and saying they're going to start their business today to maximize that? How are people really thinking about this, Leon?
Well, in terms of, well, I would not recommend you leave your job because, I mean, even when you open up a business, you still need to cover expenses typically for a long period of time before you start to generate net positive income to the business. So the business can sustain itself. So that's why, while you have your primary job, even your side hustles, if you will, start to open up your LLC and start to generate revenue, because some portion of your income used to, hopefully not a whole lot, can use to go ahead and set up the business, but also you have some cushion, right? So event is taking a little bit longer to get to positive return on your business. You're not foregoing your day-to-day expenses, taking care of yourself, your family, because that's a high priority. So you want to make sure you're locking those income streams, take care of the overhead, your family, but at the same time, leave something, deploy and invest in your business to have that growth. So don't quit your day job, but just make sure that you're taking some of those resources and investing it in your own business to try to grow that moving forward.
That's great. That's great.
And by the way, we still have 6 other areas to talk.
Yeah, we do. We may not get to everything. But actually, good point, because I was going to transition. Because I know that there are a lot of economic changes right now. We just had a change in the office, a change in the name of the Gulf of Mexico to now the Gulf of America. A lot of things are happening right now. So what are some of the key economic trends that people should be aware of as we're transitioning into 2025? Can I also say we have Latrice James right there in the comment section. She is taking notes of this real time, and I'll be pinning what we're talking. So she is doing an amazing job, And the examples that Latrice noticed from this is multiple jobs, multiple sources of income, start your business and side hustle. And the takeaway from this section is just to make sure that you think long-term, right? You might not want to leave your day job, but you're starting to supplement your income, and then also think about your business as a long-term exit strategy for your job. So, all right. So yeah, economic trends.
The biggest economic trend we see are obviously things like artificial intelligence, which is by far the biggest impact on any economic trend moving forward. But I think beyond that, I think positioning yourself so that you could benefit from the policy changes. Now, what I mean by that is, there seems to be an inclination that we're going to move more towards a cryptocurrency-backed reserve, or at least a huge investment by the government in cryptocurrency. That really means that most cryptocurrency that are solid in nature will increase. It will probably increase beyond the average stock market, value, basically. So you want to make sure you position your assets to benefit from cryptocurrency. I mean, I would just at this point be pumping money into Bitcoins, because that is essentially the beacon, like the S&P 500 of the cryptocurrency world, right? So make sure you have a lot of assets moving towards cryptocurrencies, because it's very clear, unless, I mean, it could not end up that way, but I think by all indication, it looks to me that the administration is going to be heavily investing in cryptocurrencies. Also, things like some of the policies, like, if they're assessing tariffs, for instance, on foreign countries,
Right.
look and see, okay, which goods might be, as a result, could benefit within the U.S. Right. So if there's assessing tariffs on a goods from a foreign country, and maybe there's going to be a decline of that goods from being purchased, naturally, then people may look to us purchase a replacement of those goods within the U.S. Right. So you want to allocate, make a list of stock baskets, for instance, and say, okay, which are these most likely to benefit as a result of these policies, and then start investing in those, right? Because you're going to essentially have a big jump in those sectors. So look at technology, look at the trends, and then try to allocate some of your resources towards those, because you're going to get the most bang for the buck. If you
And I love this topic, because I mean, we are reacting to a lot of the economic policies. One of the biggest updates was the closing down of TikTok. It still exists, but also there's some talk with the administration about opening back up. And we're at the point now, especially as content creators, that affects people's pocketbooks, how they're able to communicate to the audiences, how they're able to market, to prospect for new clients.
Right.
So, I mean, is that something that we should be thinking about as well? Like perhaps even making sure that we're able to have our reach on different platforms in case something shuts down, like in case they shut down Instagram at some point, right? Or say TikTok. What do you think? How do you think we should be thinking about that? This is also a little bit of a different question, but I want to see what your thoughts about that are.
Yeah, I mean, as with most things, from an asset perspective, you have to diversify and always be prepared about risk management. Yeah. So essentially managing the risk on those, essentially diversifying your portfolio from that perspective. So let's say, for instance, if you're getting monetized on a particular platform, make sure you spread that across multiple platforms. So in case one platform gets shut down, you essentially have your client base you can still leverage for whatever they buy from you, whether it's information or connections you have with them, because you want to make sure you continue. We are in the digital world, so you also want to be digitally mobile, which is one of the reasons I founded the company Cloudacy, which I'm sure we'll get into a little more. It helps organize all of your digital assets, physical assets on one platform, to make it easy to transition from one platform to the next, but also be able to pass those on to your family in the event that something happens. But yes, to answer your question directly, I would definitely be diversifying, because like you're saying, I mean, we had a couple of big influence. In fact, today, Kanye West's Twitter just got shut down. So actually, I mean, I'm sure he had millions of followers on his platform, and someone pulled a trigger, right? He's gone. So definitely you want to diversify, just like you would from your investment perspective. Same thing you want to do. If these are revenue sources or they're a huge platform to market, you want to make sure you broaden that platform base. Yeah,
I mean, just like it's a business, it's an investor mindset of thinking about your content as assets and diversifying it among different channels. And I want to make sure we're moving on here, because we have limited time with you on respective of your time. Common financial planning mistakes. Some of the things you think about, I can already think about failing to plan early, neglecting estate planning. Let's go one by one. What are some of the common financial planning mistakes that you're seeing from clients or just in the industry?
Yeah, I think some of the biggest planning mistakes is people, and as simple as it sounds, people just don't have any plan. That's the reality. I mean, they may work, they may contribute to maybe the retirement account, maybe have some insurance here and there. But for the most part, they just get the money, pay the expenses, and go about their normal day, right? So a couple of key things they want to do. Number one, besides what we talked about, identifying income sources, expanding those sources, cutting back on expenses, right? putting in place risk management. When I say risk management, planning for what if they become sick, disabled, or die, right?
Oof.
Because at the end of the day, we can want to do all these things, but if we don't have the right health to essentially be able to work
Right.
and handle these, expenses, we can face some serious challenges. So you want to put in place your basic disability insurance, your basic life insurance,
Mm.
health insurance, these basic sort of protection. They're very, very essential.
Okay.
Another thing,
I'm going to pause there because I don't think that a lot of people are focusing on contingency
correct,
planning. We're just focusing on income maximization,
right,
which is great, but we're not focusing on if somebody passes away.
correct.
Insurance isn't really talked
They
about
don't even want to think about it.
in a insurance isn't really talked about in a way that isn't trying to benefit insurance companies.
Right.
Let's talk a little bit more about contingency planning, disability. Let's talk about that aspect of the defense aspect of financial planning. So what kind of things should people be setting up?
Yeah. Well, when it comes to things like risk management, like disability, life insurance, long-term care, it's okay to have them through your employer because majority of people work for an employer. But what happens is a lot of time when people leave the employer, I mean, they pretty much lose just about all the benefits, right? And these days, the average person stays in employer just a few
Right.
years. So the reality is that they're not really going to keep those benefits, other than maybe the 401k. Just about every other benefit they're going to lose. So what I suggest is at least augmenting or having, risk management plan outside of the quote unquote formal employment that they could hold on to for years. I mean, one of the best things I did when I was in my early 20s was bought some cash value insurance, and I still hold on to it today. And it was great health, low cost of the insurance, and it has good value. So the point is, put these things in and just hold on to it, regardless of which employer you're with, which employer you're not with, what business you have. They're yours. They're not tied to a specific employee. You can just hold on to them for the rest of it.
Right.
So that's one of the things from a risk management perspective I would highly recommend.
And I want to touch on that as well because again, that isn't really spoken about. You're not going to see this stuff on a Super Bowl ad or
Right.
anything like that. it's very much things you have to get out. So just to take away from this as well is that we should make sure that we are protecting ourselves. But it's just like losing the access to TikTok, which I still miss TikTok to this very day. I want to get back on it, but we can't plan for things to go away, but we can always just make sure we're preparing for it. So especially things like we have all these awesome people in here. Thank you guys so much for jumping on. Things like life insurance. It could be term policy. If you're looking at cash value insurance policies, make sure you do your research. It fits into your budget. There are benefits to that, but also you want to make sure you're not disadvantaging yourselves to where you're trying to pump so much money. I'm gonna do a whole conversation about this. Pump so much money into the cash insurance policy that you're broke and you have nothing left for your family. It wouldn't make any sense. But there are benefits to that as well. And then also making sure, of course, if you're having life insurance from your company, if you get fired from that company or have to leave, just making sure you have your own cake, if you will, to make sure you're protecting yourself and your family, because you never know. You can your
Yep.
family, you might pass away, someone in your family might pass away. Just having your own protection plan is really a big part of your financial plan. So that's really good. Anything else you want to add there?
Yeah, no, the insurance are very, very much critical. In addition to that, you want to set aside savings for any sort of major bucket, major expenses you have come out. So if you have expense to buy a car or expense to buy a house, make sure you're allocating a separate money from your investments to pay for those big expenses, right? Because you don't want, it's time to go to closing on a house and then you're short, there's no way to get the money. So start planning for those in advance. If you start planning, you don't have to contribute a fraction of the price with some compounding interest. You can get to the goal for saving for an asset much quicker than
Right.
if you didn't plan ahead of time.
And this is really great because it goes back to the very beginning of the discussion, the importance of having those goals financially,
Correct.
so to allocate your resources accordingly. If I'm at the beginning of my year and I'm thinking about buying a house in say 2 or 3 years, then I'm not going to be spending so much on going out or I'm not going to be spending for much of a car or anything like that. So I think goals help us to focus our minds and also
Yep.
our assets to allocate towards what's really important. Um, and can we talk about this as well? Because I know that we may have these financial goals, but it's very easy to get off track with this as well. So that might be a mistake. How do we make sure that our clients are staying on track with their goals if they have one, and not just writing something and then putting it in their desk drawer? How do we do that?
Well, I mean, like with anything good in life, it just takes concentration and it takes discipline. It never happens by happenstance or magic, right? So when you have the plan and the plan requires certain action, okay, like if you, let's just, for instance, set up an investment account, set up an insurance policy, and
Mm-hmm.
you're supposed to contribute X amount, just make sure that goes off the top before you start spending on any discretionary type expenses, right? So, and just have it be automatic, so you don't have to worry about having even think about doing it. It just happens, every 2 weeks or every
Oh,
month,
that's great. Yeah,
and just have it go. That's probably the easiest way because you don't have to think about it too much, right? So have it some
exactly.
also automatic saving, automatic investing plan is the easiest way I find to allocate towards money towards good things. Because if you don't do it and you have to wait until after your expenses and things you want to do, essentially the money's gone, right?
Exactly.
But then that goes back to what we said in the beginning. By also having more income sources, it gives it flexibility to start to diversify in all these different pots
Yes.
where you don't feel like you're getting strangled and you can still live comfortably or reasonably comfortably and still handle your
Okay, great.
goals.
We have a couple more things to talk about as well. And a takeaway from this section is to make sure that you are allocating towards your resources properly. And one thing I also do is if I'm looking at my budget or anything like that, putting my goals at the top of the budget to constantly remind myself, okay, I'm planning for this trip or I'm planning for car expenses or whatever it is, or just whatever it is. But if you constantly have your goals before you, that's going to make sure that every dollar falls on purpose. I'm a big proponent of that. So just keep reminding yourself, as Leon says, what your goal is, what is important for you. So you don't
Absolutely.
forget it.
You
And
know, you're
also
right. You said what you said I really like about keeping that goals in front of you. So I have a calendar.
yeah.
Literally every morning, every night before I go to sleep, everything
Yeah.
everything that I want to accomplish in terms of goals, I write it down and just look at it. So
Same.
just by keeping it in front of, literally physically in front of your
Oh
eyes.
man.
In the
Okay.
night, in the morning, that's when I do it, but you can do it any time of the day. Okay, I got to work towards it. I got to work. As long as it's front and center, you're going to find a way to work towards it to make it
And
happen.
this is great too, because I mean, this goes with training your
Correct.
mind towards success, and
Exactly.
yeah, I do that as well. Before I'm going to bed, I'm looking at my goals. Right before, I try to make sure I pray before I go. So it's looking at goals, and then I go to the prayer. But at least making sure that I'm doing that, visualizing myself in that position, and you literally see your mind and just how you start to act, just as a different person to focus on those goals. So I love that. First thing in the morning, you said you have it on your calendar as well.
In my calendar.
Exactly. So that is critical, because you'll find out if you don't constantly have your goals in front of you, everything else will become a goal. You have to get everything.
Exactly.
But if you focus on one thing, usually a lot of things follow as well, especially when it comes from a financial standpoint. Okay, moving on. Let's look at some tax saving opportunities, because I know we haven't really talked about that, and the fact that you're able to speak is going to be a great value to people who are jumping on.
Yeah, tax savings. I think that's one of the biggest boosts to your income stream if you can figure out some good tax strategies. We discussed earlier having side hustles, side businesses, having a registered company, right? From which, let's say if you transition from a quote unquote daytime job to being a business owner, right? So imagine you set up your LLC or your corporation. All your business expenses that you identified through the corporation, assuming that they could be written off, assuming that you have an income left over after deducting your expenses from the corporation side. Some of those can be written off against your income stream as a W-2 earner. So imagine, let's say you made $100,000, you otherwise paid, say, $30,000 in taxes, right, to between federal and state. But let's say hypothetically you had, $40,000 of business expenses, business losses from your corporation, right? You can offset some, or in some cases, all of those expenses against your. The video is moderate. I don't know why, but
Right.
you can.
I actually did that because she's doing such a great job and she's been on multiple.
Okay.
I should let you know. I don't know, give you a notification, but no, I'm adding just so we have a conversation.
Okay, I got you.
Adding Latrice, she's already putting some great notes. If somebody wants to act up, she has full discretion to kick them off, but I don't think we'll get to that point.
Okay. Yeah, so basically you can offset those expenses against your income. So you might be able to save 5, 10, 15, 20,000 in taxes by having expenses, because you assume that in the first couple of years, you might experience losses from your business, right? Those losses are going to offset against your income. So that's one of the biggest ways in terms of saving money on taxes. I mean, clearly some other ways contributing to your 401k, right? Those are tax deductible because you get some of those back, when you file your taxes. Invest in things like 529 college savings plans. If you have children, you can invest in some of those. Cash value life insurance, it helps more your tax situation long term, right? Because you don't pay taxes on accumulation of the cash, as well as you don't pay taxes on distribution of the cash while you're alive. And if a death benefit is then passed on to your families, you don't pay tax in most cases on the death benefit to your family. So it has so many tax advantages from a tax planning perspective. But I would say the biggest impact, top 3, set up your own corporation, start getting to work to identify what kind of business you want to do. Hopefully make a profit. If you experience losses, write those off, right? Those will save you a lot of money on taxes. Make sure you keep everything separate, business separate, income situation separate. But your accounting can show you how to write off losses. Also, make sure you're contributing towards tax deductible accounts, things like 401k, et cetera. Some tax deferral accounts, things like life insurance or Roth IRAs, where you don't pay tax on accumulation, you don't pay tax on distribution.
Right. Perfect. Awesome. And then we will go ahead and transition to the final topic, which is going to segue perfectly into Cloudacy. So the question is securing our assets, digital assets, personal assets for our families, and also how Cloudacy can help with that. Let's talk more broad for you, and then of course we can talk about how Cloudacy can specifically work with our clients towards that.
Yeah. First of all, you guys want to go to cloudacytech.com, cloudacytech.com. Hopefully, I know what you can post it in the.
Yes.
Latrice,
would you mind typing that in there? Cloudacytech.com.
Yeah, www.cloudacytech.com. Essentially, it was a company I formed a few years ago now. And the whole premise of Cloudacy Tech, and it's a free website to sign up. Basically, most people need an organized platform to be able to identify all of their assets. Things like retirement accounts, bank accounts, cryptocurrencies, real estate, etc. And by the way, all the information you enter on the platform is securely stored. We use an Amazon Web Services encryption platform to store all the data. We ourselves don't even have access to the data, just so you know. So basically, it's stored in a encrypted fashion, so your data is safe. You can also list any monetized social media accounts, whether it's Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. Those are generating value. Real estate, if you have real estate, you can list it. It's cloudacytech.com. And the purpose being is that, number one, is a centralized platform to consolidate your assets. But in the event that something happens, let's say the account owner becomes a decedent, is an organized way to transfer assets to their beneficiaries. So you can list the trustee, you can list your beneficiary. The trustee is the person who manages your estate in the event the account owner becomes a decedent. You can also list the beneficiary, obviously those who are beneficiary to your assets. This could be trusted family members, could be lawyers, could be accountants, right? Those are the trustees, right? The beneficiary could be individuals you name, right, on specific accounts. So let's say hypothetically you had 10 bank accounts. You list the bank accounts, you list the 10 beneficiaries. In the event something happens, the trustee sends a notification, let's say a notification of death. We verify the death certificate. Then we release the information about those assets directly to the beneficiaries that you specified. Okay? So it's a very organized way to identify the assets and then transfer it to your family members. Because what I noticed is that during my career in financial service, is that people would die and then the family would be scrambling trying to find where their accounts
Right.
are. Oh, and then these days we get everything in
Yeah.
email. Can you imagine how would family be able to access a person's email to get all the statements? Back in the day, at least they used to mail the statement to your house. So even if the family members didn't find the assets, someday the statement will come in the mail. Oh yeah, oh John Doe had an account at PNC Bank. Oh, then let's go and claim it.
Right.
Now nobody's getting statements. So
Okay,
everything's in the email. So if something
I want to
happens,
explain this as well, if I can, just quick
yeah.
interjection. And I notice, especially because a lot of us think that, oh my God, Tricia's doing an amazing job. We're going to keep Cloudacy Tech, just make sure that that's up front. You guys can do your research. Make sure you log on to Cloudacy Tech to check out the amazing work that Leon and his team are doing. But especially our generation and even
Correct.
millennials, even baby boomers. My mom didn't have any sort of planning. Quick story, just when my mom, I talked about this last time, my mom passed away, there was no sort of plan. You know, it was there, and the family just sort of scrambles.
Right.
This happens very much in many families, but I know for me inside the Nigerian community. Also, I've also had someone in just recently reach out and just asking for money because there's nothing saved. There's no contingency planning for when that person passes away. So
Yeah.
it's very important. I know this may be something you may not want to focus on, but the only thing that we are certain about in life is death and taxes.
Yep.
And of course Jesus too. But that's my addition. But make sure that you are planning for those two things. You want to make sure that if a family member is getting older, or even if you just make sure you start having that estate planning. So I'll give it back to you, Leon. Just want to make sure I share my personal testimony there.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. You hit a good point. That's what we'll keep stressing. Start the planning now in an organized way and identify all these assets to make it easier, right? Because you work hard 10, 20, 30, 40 years for these assets. So you don't really want to have it just go by the wayside, right? So Cloudacy Tech can help you organize and transfer these assets. Free to sign up to your beneficiaries in a very organized fashion. Only about 33% of people have some sort of estate plan. 70% will have no estate plan. So no trust, no wills, no nothing. In terms of what happens if someone, their family becomes a decedent. So this is a way to basically have a digital estate planning, right? So because the biggest thing about estate planning, you have to identify the assets, right? And then the next thing you have to find who to help with claiming those assets, whether it be lawyer or accountants, right? So we solve all that in one platform. We identify the assets, and then you can list your trusted advisor like a lawyer, or like an accountant, or a trusted family member, and then list your beneficiaries. So you've specified basically how you want those assets to be transferred. And then if the event the accountant becomes a decedent, well, people can just go and see, okay, well, who was the beneficiary to the monetized social media account? They can have to log in, they can access that.
Right.
Who was the beneficiary of life insurance? Well, that person is listed, so they know where to go to get the insurance policy. Who was listed for the condo in Florida? Well, that person is listed, so they know how to go and claim. You know what I mean? So it makes the job of the estate planning attorney very, very easy. So Cloudacy Tech, very, very happy, create this website. I want to get it out there to as many people as possible right here in Maryland, in Bethesda, Maryland. And we're looking forward to you signing up, becoming a member. It's free to join, and we look forward to helping you with your estate planning needs.
Perfect timing. I mean, we are flowing right through this. I think we had an amazing conversation the first time, but this one is definitely next level. So we're going to open up to audience questions. If you guys want to hop on, you definitely can. Just you can drop your questions right there in the bottom. But before I want to do that, I want to say thank you so much, Leon. This was,
Thank you.
A lot.
Thank you.
A lot of value. And let's do a quick recap if you guys are thinking about questions. So we talked about the importance of financial planning, making sure you establish your goals as a way to orient your resources and your assets towards one thing, getting rid of things like debt, and also make sure you have your savings. But one of the best ways to do that is through income maximization. So constantly maximizing the amount of value that you're adding to the marketplace, working on your skills. I've talked about it in previous videos, working on yourself as an individual, seeking ways that you can add value to the marketplace. That's going to be very huge. And then we moved on to current market trends, diversifying your I would say diversifying your assets, whether it be investments, not just having assets at work, but also assets at home, having your own personal investments. You also talked about Bitcoin as well, which is,
Yeah.
that's going to be, yeah. So, putting money into there, of course, keep asking questions. These are, this is education, not advice. I want to make sure we do state that. But then also making sure you have your own personal policies, things like life insurance. I do recommend, I always look at term insurance, but of course, cash value policies, if it makes sense for you financially. You do not, I would say as a caveat, that shouldn't, if you don't have any money at all, you don't have any savings, I would say put that into place where you're able to make sure you're secure before you start using investments or insurance as an investment. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, definitely cover
Yeah,
the foundation.
exactly. Cover your foundations first. And we also talked about different ways to save money with taxes, which is a very great
Yep.
topic. And then finally, estate planning. God, Latrice's doing an amazing job. An amazing job here. If you guys have any questions, let me know. But yeah, definitely the last thing is making sure you're planning for loved ones leaving. I know friends, clients of mine who have lost loved ones suddenly, and you just never know. So making sure you do that now avoids a lot of the heartache and the headache that can come with the pain of someone passing away. And if you have any questions, I want you all to make sure that you are contacting Leon. He's available at Cloudacy Tech. We put the website there. If you have any questions, let me know as well. Quick, I guess, aside for me. So I help people create abundance through their God-given gifts so they can bless their communities and making sure they have money with a purpose, living every single day with purpose with their money and their finances. And that's what I do as a financial educator. But if you guys want to put some, I would say some clap, you can say thank you to Leon here for sharing his information and wealth of knowledge. Leon, we appreciate you. Anything else you want to add before we
No, I just
end the live?
want to say thank you again for the opportunity to come on your show. Make sure you sign up today. Cloudacytech.com is free to sign up. Start organizing, your financial assets. The Fortune 500 companies and big organizations do this a lot. They use the showback method. You have to look at your assets, see where you're at, and then it helps you with how to eliminate waste. Where you can cut. Where you need to go into the future, what you need to transfer to your beneficiaries. So having an organized platform like Cloudacy is really going to make a difference. So sign up today, message me, our email's on there if you have any questions, and I'll see you next time.
Awesome. Thank you so much for your time, Leon. This was phenomenal. Great job.
Thank you.
Great job, everyone. Thank you, Latrice, as well. We appreciate you all.
Thanks, Latrice.
Wonderful day. Any questions, let us know. Send them a DM, and we'll talk to you guys soon.
Okay, then take care now. All right, cheers.